The top stories: Russia expresses readiness to beef up its friendship with African nations. And the Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi arrives in Nairobi on a three-day African tour. Greetings, dear viewers, ladies and gentlemen. This is ETV News. With the news, I'm Shifara Alako. Thank you for joining us. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed holds talks with the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi in Cairo on July 13 to discuss the crisis in Sudan and Ethiopia-Egypt bilateral relations. Following the discussion, Premier Abiy tweeted, "I am pleased to have met President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi in Cairo for talks marked by the spirit of cooperation on bilateral and regional issues of mutual interest." The Egyptian presidential spokesman said in a statement that the two leaders discussed ways to settle the crisis in Sudan and enhance bilateral relations between Ethiopia and Egypt. The Ethiopian Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Dammaqe Mokonnon has met with the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, Molefi. The two discussed bilateral and regional issues of mutual interest and ways of boosting cooperation in key areas of bilateral, regional and multilateral issues. On the occasion, Dammaqe expressed keenness to work closely to further expedite and fully implement the revitalized Ethio-US diplomatic ties. The peace process in Sudan must be led and owned by the Sudanese and should be conducted under the auspices of the AU through the IGAD platform, Dammaqe stated. The Assistant Secretary, Molefi, for her part, lauded Addis Ababa for hosting the IGAD Quartet meeting on the situation in Sudan on the 10th of July 2023. She urged all parties to commit themselves to a ceasefire to bring political solutions and dispense humanitarian aid to the people affected. In another development, Foreign Minister Dammaqe Mokonnon has arrived in Nairobi, Kenya, to participate in the 43rd Ordinary Session of the Executive Council of the African Union Commission. The 5th Mid-Year Coordination Meeting of the African Union, Regional Economic Communities and Regional Mechanisms meeting is scheduled to take place from 13th to 16th of July 2023 in Nairobi, Kenya. The meeting will be attended by member states, including higher officials of the AUC, Regional Economic Communities, Regional Mechanisms on Peace and Security, AU organs, and international partner organizations. According to the Ethiopian news agency, the summit will be conducted under the theme Accelerating the African Continental Free Trade Area. The Russian ambassador to Ethiopia says his country is determined to beef up its friendship with African nations as equal partners. The ambassador remarked this at the roundtable discussion on the road to the second Russia-Africa summit to be held in St. Petersburg on July 27 and 28. The report is presented as follows. On behalf of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of the Russian Federation, the roundtable on the road to the second Russia-Africa summit was held in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The event was organized in advance of the second Russia-Africa summit and Economic and Humanitarian Forum. Representatives of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of the Russian Federation and African countries, AFRICOM, relevant ministries, industry and business associations, top managers of African companies, as well as leading Russian and African media were part of the event. The Russian ambassador to Ethiopia, Yevgeny Terekin, took the occasion to underscore the fact that there is huge potential to reinforce ties between Russia and Africa.
Russian Federation foreign policy, we vouch for continuous strengthening of traditional friendship with African countries and the main regional alliance with the African Union and with regional economical alliances and communities based on the principles of equality, mutual respect, and not intertwining in internal affairs. Russia supports unequivocally African countries in their struggle for the sovereignty, in supporting and providing security and economic growth. This is our biggest difference from the so-called countries of the collective West.
The ambassador also stated that Russia sees African nations as an equal partner in order to strengthen comprehensive and mutual friendship between them.
Will be facilitated by hosting the second Russian-Africa Summit and the Humanitarian Forum that will take place on July 27th and 28th this year in St. Petersburg. Summit is considered by us as a systematic foundation element of a partnership between Russia and Africa. Its hosting and conducting is aimed at reaching new levels of quality in our mutually beneficial partnership, answering the challenges of the 21st century. The further strengthening of equally mutually beneficial partnerships between Russian and African countries in all measurements, in politics, in economy, in education, in science, culture and humanitarian spheres.
The president of the Ethiopian Chamber of Commerce and Sectoral Association said the upcoming second Russia-Africa Summit will give a boost to reinforcing the friendship between Russia and Africa.
The coming event to be held in Petersburg at Russia is a good opportunity to make relationships between the business community of Ethiopia and also the business community of Russia. Not only for selling products of Russia, but also for selling services and products of Africa, and also to get knowledge and technology transfer and especially from Russia to Africa.
The second Russia-Africa Summit will be held at the end of this month, with the goal of promoting efforts to strengthen comprehensive and equal partnership between African nations and Russia. It was disclosed. Welcome back. Now, subcontinental organizations in Africa must play a crucial role in ensuring the peace and security of their respective regions and reducing poverty. The remark was made by Colonel Samuel Madala, who came to Addis Ababa to coordinate the training organized by the East African Standby Force and to share the experience of his region. He believes that Africa's peace and security can be ensured by Africans themselves, despite the challenges the continent is facing. Johannes van Down has that story.
The Southern Africa Development Community SADC Brigade is a permanent military force that serves the region. As it includes civilian and police components, this intervention component is currently known as the Southern Africa Development Community Standby Force. This force was established in Zambia in 2007 as part of the African Union's Standby Force. It envisions having a potential to intervene in tense situations to solve problems such as egregious violations of human security, including genocide, coups and civil unrest.
SADC is one of the blocks of the African Standby Force, and it has been involved in a number of activities, starting from the training of its personnel, preparing them for deployment into the mission area, and even the deployment. As you might know, SADC is currently deployed in Mozambique under the South SADC mission in Mozambique, SAMIM. So that's where they are trying to contain the situation of the Islamists and the terrorists in Mozambique and there are a number of member states within the SADC who have deployed their troops there to support the Mozambican government, besides the Rwandese government, which is there on bilateral arrangement with Mozambique.
The SADC standby force is working to ensure the peace and security of the region, and it is engaged in peacekeeping operations and control of security breaches, particularly in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Mozambique. Although it has not achieved as much as the target in this regard, there are challenges that SADC faces with regard to deployment.
The major challenge in terms of deployment of the forces by the member states is the logistic part of it, because different member states have got different capabilities in terms of logistics to sustain the mission. So where the troops are deployed and fully supported by the member states, some of the member states who are willing to deploy, but they don't have the capacity, they are unable to deploy their troops. So the main challenge is the way the member states are going to support those troops deployed into the mission area before the regional body takes over the support of that mission.
Like COMESA, ECOWAS, the East African Community, the East African Standby Force, SADC is part of the African Union's framework and is part of the African Union's Standby Force.
Collective forces can be able to provide the mechanisms to provide the peace within the region, as we are always preaching the issue of African problems for the African solutions for the African problems. So as the regional bodies, we need to understand each other and work together. That's why maybe I'm here in the ESF to lead this course. At the same time, we are able to understand how the other regions are doing and share the experiences, so that when we are deployed as an African standby force, we are able to understand each other and know how we operate.
Subcontinental organizations in Africa are working to fight poverty and ensure peace and security in Africa as their main agenda, but it is said that the results are not equal to the plans.
Now, Ethiopia's Harar city has become the first sub-Saharan African city to be registered as a member of the Organization of World Heritage Cities. The chief administrator of the state, Ordin Badri, signed the registration of Harar city as the member of the OWHC in the city of Quebec, Canada. The registration of Harar city as one of the heritage cities will greatly contribute to the development of cultural and historical heritage in the city and the development of tourism industry, it was disclosed. It is vital for heritage cities to consult on their common issues and set directions on how to overcome challenges and expand opportunities, it was indicated. Harar city is known to be the home of international heritage sites registered by the UNESCO, including the Jagol International Heritage Site. That's according to the Harare Regional State Communication Bureau. And in business, the commissioner of the Ethiopian Customs Commission has received the Best Customs Commissioner Award at the 8th African Leadership Magazine Africa Summit 2023 held in London. Commissioner Dabale is recognized as the best commissioner of the African Customs Commission in the International Special Award organized by the Organization of the Best African Government Service Institutions Award. Apart from the recognition and award, efforts will be made to make the Ethiopian Customs Commission a strong public institution that all Ethiopians can be proud of and trust, the commissioner said. The magazine focuses on bringing the best of Africa to a global audience, telling the African story from an African perspective while evolving solutions to peculiar challenges being faced by the continent. Ethiopia and the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan have signed an agreement on protection of the rights and interests of Ethiopian nationals working in Jordan, Ethiopia's Minister of Labor and Skill, Muferiat Kamil, tweeted. The two sides discussed the International Labour Organization employment relationship requirements, wage increases, safe working environments, medical care and insurance. In addition, the Ethiopian side has discussed with Yusuf Al-Shamali, the Jordanian Minister of Industry, Trade and Supply, the draft agreement and document presented by the negotiating experts of the two countries on issues pertaining to employees' working hours and leaves, Mufariat tweeted. Regarding Ethiopian nationals engaged in domestic service in Jordan, Minister Mufariat said that the agreement focuses on the sending of newly trained and skilled manpower for the first time to the kingdom.
So for those of you who feel they need something to give strength to their relationship and love, this has also gotten to the Fish River Canyon. As you can see, we have a couple of love locks here on the chains that take you down the hiking path.
On this episode of Across All Borders Going South, it's all about the long road south. A trip to Fish River Canyon, Namibia. The world's second largest canyon. If you put in Google Map Windhoek to Hobus Camp, which is one of the lodges close to the Fish River Canyon, you will see immediately that it is about 644 kilometers, or if you started from Luderitz, it's 419 kilometers to the Hobus Camp. The Fish River Canyon is the second largest canyon in the world after the Grand Canyon. It commences at Seeheim at the lowest course of the river. The canyon is 161 kilometers long, 27 kilometers wide, and up to 550 meters deep. About the campsite or the Hobus accommodation and campsite offers different types of stays. So you've got lodges, and they've even got a pool for the rooms, and you've got the campsite.
And now in our continental news coverage, the Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi has arrived in Nairobi, Kenya on a 3-day official tour for the first time since he took office. He's also expected to visit Uganda and Zimbabwe. The Kenyan President William Ruto and the Iranian President have signed a number of trade agreements during the visit on Wednesday. Tegasanisa has more on that.
Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi received a red carpet welcome from Kenyan counterpart William Ruto on Wednesday as he began a 3-day country tour of Africa. Raisi's trip to Africa represents a bid to diversify economic ties. Iran stepped up its diplomatic outreach to developing world countries. In June, Raisi also visited 3 Latin American countries. Iran's trade with African countries is expected to increase to more than $2 billion this year, its foreign ministry said on Saturday, without providing a comparative figure for 2022. Stressing the two heads of state held multiple dimensions of important, broad range of bilateral fruitful discussion, also signing 5 memorandums of trade agreements. Kenyan President William Ruto reaffirmed bilateral relations of these two nations will be strengthened ahead.
Today, President Raisi and I have witnessed the signing of 5 memoranda of understanding on cooperation in information, communication and technology, fisheries, animal health and livestock products, and investment promotion. These memoranda will enhance and further deepen our bilateral relations for sustainable growth and development between our two countries.
President Raisi's trip to Kenya East Africa's economic powerhouse, is expected to provide the two countries an opportunity to revive and re-energize their bilateral relations for mutual benefit of the people of the two countries, and this is according to Kenya's Foreign Ministry disclosed on Tuesday. The visit marks a 3-day Africa tour as Raisi seeks to strengthen relations between Iran and the continent.
Despite all the threats and the sanctions of our adversaries, we have managed to register advances in different fields, and today we should call Iran a technology hub. We have managed to overcome present sanctions and have also upgraded our status in different fields.
Raisi is expected next to fly to Uganda to discuss trade and bilateral relations with President Yoweri Museveni, and then to Zimbabwe. The last Iranian president to visit Africa was Mohammad Ahmadinejad in 2013.
Well, dear viewers, you have been watching ATV News. Now, a quick recap of the top stories. Russia expresses readiness to beef up its friendship with African nations. And the Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi arrives in Nairobi on a 3-day African tour. That's all the news there is for now. Thanks a lot for watching us. Bye-bye.